So I have a question which is student has to take 3 tests. If he passes the first test, then for which his probability of passing is 0.9, he will take the second test. And if he also passes this one, for which the conditional probability is 0.8, he takes the third test, for which the conditional probability is 0.7. If he fails the test, he is not allowed to take any other test. If it turns out that the student did not pass all 3 tests, what is conditional probability that he failed the second test? Okay, so let's see. Let's consider the passing first test is E1, second test is E2, and third is E3. So E1 we know is 0.9, but E2, knowing that he has passed E1, is 0.8, and E3, knowing that he has passed E1 and E2, is 0.7. So what is the probability of him passing? That is going to be E1 and E2 and E3, and that is going to be E1 times probability of E2 knowing E1 times probability of E3 when he passed E1 and E2. That is the law of multiplicative probabilities. Very conveniently, this has been given to us. So that's going to be 0.9 times 0.8 times 0.7, which is going to be 0.9 times 0.8 times 0.7, that is 0.504. Now we have to calculate, given that he did not pass all 3 exams, what is the conditional probability that he did not pass the exam? So the event that he failed the second exam is going to be that he passed the first exam, and it's going to be E2 complement, that is he failed at second exam. And the event that he did not pass any of the exams is going to be E1 complement and E2 complement and E3 complement. Actually, this is going to be, let's just say this is going to be they pass any of the exam is E1, E1 and E2 and E3, complement of all of them together. So we have the probability of E1 and E2 complement, given there is E1 and E2 and E3 complement, is going to be probability of E1 and E2 complement and E1 and E2 and E3 complement divided by E1 and probability of E1 and E2 and E3 complement. Now this is a component of this. So for them both to happen, this has to be there. This would be the minimum of them. So this will just be probability of E1 and E2 complement divided by probability of E1 and E2 and E3 complement. So what is this going to be? This is going to be probability of E2 complement knowing E1 times probability of E1, okay, and what is the probability of E2 complement, like failing in E2 while passing E1, is going to be a 1 minus passing E2, 1 minus probability of passing E2, or it is just going to be 1 minus probability of passing E2 knowing E1, and then you will multiply it with probability of passing E1, okay. And what is the probability of failing all of these? That is just going to be 1 minus probability of passing all of them, so E1 and E2 and E3. So this just becomes 1 minus probability of E2 knowing E1 times probability of E1 divided by 1 minus probability of E1 and E2 and E3. Now we know this. What is probability of E2 and E1? We know this probability of E2 and E1 is 0.8. So we're going to put this 0.8 here. What is probability of E1? We know probability of E1 to be 0.9. So we're going to put this 0.9 here. And what is probability of this? We have calculated this to be already calculated 0.504. So we're going to put this 0.504 here. So this will become 1 minus 0.8 times 0.9 divided by 1 minus 0.504. That will become 0.2 times 0.9 divided by 1 minus 0.504, 0.496. That is 0.2 times 0.9, that is 0.18 divided by 0.496. That is going to be 0.18 divided by 0.496. That is equal to 0.3629 or 0.363. up to 3 decimal places.